All right, let's get to the chase. No one wants to have a 9 to 5 job. If you have one and you defend your job, I would heavily encourage you to not defend the thing that limits you from achieving your full potential. And especially if you still have one and you do want to stick with it, I highly recommend you listen to this video because there is a secret trap that is laid upon all of us, but it particularly affects 9 to 5 workers, and you really need to be careful with it. Now let's get started and let's travel back into the history of humanity. Now, when we look back at all the amazing things that humanity has achieved, a lot of it was done through slavery. And a lot of people were exploited in inhumane ways. Now, keep in mind, a slave was only really paid in food, enough food so that they can survive, so that they can keep working. Now, let's jump to the present day and think of a character, let's call him Gale. He has a 9 to 5 job, and he needs this job to bring food to the table both for himself and for his family. He lives paycheck to paycheck, and he's paid just enough so that he can keep sustaining himself, surviving so that he can keep working. Now, I'm obviously not stating that a modern 9 to 5 job is as severe as ancient slavery, but there are parallels. And even though most of us aren't treated in inhumane ways, we're still subject to more subtle ways in which they psychologically control us. I would call this psychological slavery. It's a lot more subtle, but it's still very controlling. We think we're free because we're not treated like ancient slaves through abuse and violence, but we're still completely dependent in our jobs so that we can keep surviving, so that we can keep working. This is a horrible cycle where freedom is just an illusion. And worst of all is that a lot of people don't even see it. They don't see these ways in which we're subtly controlled. And the worst part of the 9 to 5 ecosystem is that it brings you towards another trap, which is the biggest way in which we're completely cut from our freedoms and completely controlled. And that's what I want to explore today. But first, let's go deeper into Gale's story. This example of a normal 9 to 5 worker who, as a kid, Gale understood, just through basic common sense, the basic idea that in order to buy something, you need money. You get money, you can buy something. But as he got older, this concept got blurred. His friends and co-workers started talking about the secret trap. And what is the secret trap that the system uses to control us? Is debt. Debt is the whole concept of borrowing your future self's money so that you can satisfy your desires today. And Gale, little by little, started adopting into this mindset, into this philosophy, and this tool that could help him get anything he wants in the present moment without having to resort to delayed gratification. So Gale, because he had a 9 to 5 job, he had a predictable paycheck. He had a salary. He knew how much money he would get next month. So even if he didn't have enough money today to buy the thing that he wanted, he could borrow it from future Gale, from next month, because he has a predictable paycheck, which comes from his 9 to 5 job. Now he could borrow money from his future self 1 month into the future. And he thought, if I pay my credit card every month, no problem, I'll be fine. But the more he got into the cycle of borrowing money from his future self, the more in debt he got. And then one time he couldn't pay for the month because he just simply couldn't afford it. And this led him into the downward spiral of debt. Now, when Gale wanted to buy something bigger, like a car or a house, he still believed that future Gale could handle it, all due to the fact that he had his steady paycheck, his salary that would enable him to always be able to keep paying the debt in the future. However, this time he wasn't getting in debt for a month. It wasn't Gale from 1 month into the future that was in debt. It was Gale from years into the future that would be in debt to satisfy the desires of present and past Gale. One day, Gale wakes up with a business idea. He wants to start it. He's full of excitement. He's so passionate about it. But an intrusive thought comes into his mind that blurs his excitement. He thought, if I start a business now, I will lose the predictable income that I fully need to pay all this debt that I've accumulated through the years. Gale felt completely stuck, and his business idea completely died on the spot, together with all his dreams for a better life. He now realized he had to keep working his 9 to 5, probably until the day he dies, to sustain all the debt that he's accumulated through the years to satisfy his desires from the past. Gale, from just having the normal experience, he first understood that money is needed to buy things, and he bought into the idea of debt as an amazing thing that you can do to satisfy your desires faster. Then as he got more and more stuck into it, he just came to terms and he was like, debt is a necessary evil. But when he wanted to get out of the cycle, it was just too late for him. His bank account, when he lived paycheck to paycheck, was essentially at zero. But over time, the bank balance went into negative numbers, and he was stuck for the rest of his life as a victim of debt. Now think of Max. He's Gale's friend. Actually, they work in the same office. They both have a 9 to 5 job, and they get exposed to the same ideas. He was offered credit cards. He would accept them. He was like, yeah, future Max will pay them. But then the more he fell into this trap, he realized, wow, okay, my bank is constantly around zero. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I need to do something to solve this problem. So he decided to learn about money. He got books, he started researching, and he started improving his beliefs around money. He stopped buying things he couldn't afford, and he stopped making future Max pay for his present desires. As he was reading through his books, he found one that encouraged him to start his own business, and he was super excited, just like Gail. He was like, yeah, we're gonna do this. I'm passionate about this. Now, Max could do something about this because he wasn't knee deep into debt yet. He realized he was getting into a trap, and he was maybe closer to zeroing his bank account, but he wasn't in negative numbers, and he wasn't indebted for years and years. So he could do something about it. He didn't want to take a massive risk, so instead he decided to sacrifice something. What he sacrificed was his current pleasure, just the idea of going out with his friends, going out with Gail, and just hanging around. Instead, he went back home after his 9 to 5 job and he started working on his business side by side with his 9 to 5 job. So after a few months, he was able to save enough money from the 9 to 5 job to actually now take the risk on his business. So he quit his 9 to 5 job, knowing that in worst case scenario, he could always just go back to another 9 to 5 job and then start the cycle again, save up some money, and then his business. Put his time and energy into something that would get him financial freedom long term. So now he's working on his business, he had faith in himself, he was learning a lot, and over time, he managed to build a successful business. And what's amazing about this whole thing is that a business can grow exponentially. It can grow your financials exponentially, whereas a 9 to 5 can be linear growth over time where, yeah, you might get a promotion, but it's still a very slow linear curve versus business starting your own thing is like this and it can rocket to the moon. So as Max succeeded in his plan, he could not only just buy the things he now wanted, but more importantly, he's now free to live the life he wants and make the decisions that fulfill him. He is no longer trapped. He can actually even provide for his family and spend as much time with them as he wants. He is not a prisoner of debt. He is a free man. And that is the story of Gail and Max. On one hand, I want to at least warn you of the dangers that a life of a 9 to 5 job combined with debt, where it can lead you and the dangers of that. And on the other, I want to inspire you to take your financial freedom seriously and into your own hands and get you started on this amazing journey. If you feel the call towards doing that, I made a free guide for you in the description. Check that out, and I hope to see you there. Bye.